Picture this. The man in shackles before you, facing a sentence that could erase his future, is the one who once held your hand through the darkest nights of your life. Judge Evelyn Harper is about to step into a trial that will unravel her world. Caught between the unyielding hammer of justice and the fragile whispers of a past she's tried to outrun. As the evidence twists and the stakes climb higher, what unfolds in this courtroom will leave you stunned. Stay with us. This isn't just a case, it's a collision of loyalty, betrayal, and redemption that will haunt you long after the gavel falls. Before we plunge into this heart-wrenching saga, let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. If you crave stories that grip your soul and challenge everything you believe, hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow, we've got another tale that'll keep you glued to your screen. The courtroom in Seattle, Washington, pulsed with its familiar rhythm, the sharp snap of briefcases, the rustle of legal briefs, and the low hum of anticipation from a gallery packed with reporters, families, and curious onlookers. Rain streaked the tall windows, casting a gray pallor over the oak-paneled walls. Judge Evelyn Harper sat at the bench, her black robe pristine, her silver-streaked hair pulled into a tight chignon that mirrored her ironclad composure. At 54, she was a legend in the King County Courthouse, a woman whose piercing blue eyes could cut through lies and whose rulings were as steady as the Puget Sound tides. Her hands rested on the polished mahogany, her gavel gleaming like a silent promise of order. It was a dreary Monday, the kind that made Seattle feel like it was drowning in its own melancholy, and she was braced for another grueling day of dispensing justice. Then the bailiff's voice sliced through the air, crisp and commanding. The state of Washington versus Nathaniel Nate Rollins. Evelyn's breath caught, her pen freezing mid-signature. The name hit her like a thunderclap, reverberating through decades of buried memories. Nate Rollins. It couldn't be him, not her Nate, the boy with the lopsided grin who'd been her rock in a world that had tried to break her. She kept her face a mask, years of judicial discipline clamping down on the chaos inside, but her pulse hammered in her ears. She glanced at the case file. Armed robbery, assault with a deadly weapon, evading arrest, possession of stolen property. The charges were a brutal litany, the kind that could bury a man for life. She forced herself to look up as the defendant was led in. The heavy clank of shackles echoed through the room, a grim prelude to his arrival. And then there he was, Nathaniel Rollins, flanked by two deputies, his broad frame slouched under the weight of an ill-fitting orange jumpsuit. His hair was thinning, streaked with gray, and his face was a roadmap of hardship. Deep lines around his mouth, a jagged scar slicing across his left cheek. But those eyes, green, fierce, and shadowed with a pain she couldn't name, were the same ones that had locked onto hers 35 years ago, when he'd pulled her from the burning wreckage of a car crash that should have been her end. Her chest tightened. It was him. In an instant, Evelyn was 19 again, trapped in the twisted metal of her father's old Chevy, the air thick with gasoline and terror. She'd been driving home from a late shift at the diner, the road slick with rain, when a truck swerved into her lane. The crash had been a blur, glass shattering, metal screaming, until Nate appeared, kicking in the windshield, his hands bloody as he dragged her out just before the flames erupted. They'd grown up in Tacoma, in a neighborhood of sagging porches and broken dreams, where survival was a daily fight. Nate was the son of a dock worker and a chain-smoking waitress, always one step from trouble, but fiercely loyal to her. She'd been the quiet one, the girl with a scholarship and a stubborn streak, but he'd been her shield, her wild, unbreakable best friend. Their friendship had been forged in the fires of that gritty world. She remembered the summer they were 15, sneaking into the abandoned warehouse by the docks, sharing a stolen pack of cigarettes and dreaming of escape. "You're gonna be somebody, Evie," he'd said, his voice rough with conviction. "Me? I'll figure it out." She'd laughed, promising they'd leave together. But the car crash had changed everything. She'd gone to college on a full ride, burying herself in books while he'd stayed behind, swallowed by the streets. Petty theft, bar fights, a spiral she couldn't pull him from. The last time she'd seen him, he'd been outside a Tacoma dive bar, his leather jacket patched with duct tape, his voice soft but firm. "Go be somebody, Evie. Don't look back." She'd hugged him, tears in her eyes, swearing she'd right. But she hadn't. Life had carved a chasm between them. Her to the bench, him to this moment. Now, in the courtroom, Nate's gaze lifted, and their eyes met. Shock flickered across his face, quickly replaced by a guarded hardness she didn't recognize. Evelyn's throat burned. She'd sentenced countless souls, thieves, addicts, murderers. But this was different. This was the boy who'd once traded his only winter coat for a stack of textbooks she couldn't afford, who'd faced down her drunk father to get her out of the house one stormy night. "Mr. Rollins," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her soul, "you're charged with armed robbery, assault with a deadly weapon, evading arrest, and possession of stolen property. How do you plead?" He straightened, his voice rough but resolute. "Not guilty, Your Honor." The words hung heavy, and Evelyn's grip on her gavel tightened. This wasn't just a case. This was a reckoning. The prosecution launched into its opening salvo with ruthless precision. Assistant DA Michael Torres, a wiry man with a shark's grin and a reputation for winning, strode forward. On March 12th, Nathaniel Rollins stormed into a 7-Eleven on Rainier Avenue, armed with a knife. He attacked the clerk, stole $400 and a case of beer, then fled, leaving a trail of chaos that ended with an injured officer. This isn't his first crime, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Rollins has a record stretching back decades. Assault, theft, drug charges. He's a predator, and this time he drew blood. Evelyn's stomach churned. She glanced at Nate, his face a stone wall, but his hands clenched in his lap betrayed him. The defense attorney, Clara Evans, rose next. A tall woman with sharp cheekbones and a voice that blended warmth with steel. "This case is a house of cards," she said, facing the jury. "The prosecution wants you to see a villain, but what you'll see is a man falsely accused, caught in a web of circumstance and prejudice. Nate Rollins didn't rob that store. He didn't hurt anyone, and we'll prove it, beyond any doubt." The trial unfolded over 4 relentless days, each moment a test of Evelyn's resolve. The prosecution's first witness was the clerk, Jamal Carter, a wiry 20-something with a nervous tic. He took the stand, his voice trembling. "It was late, like 2 a.m. Guy came in, hood up, pulled a knife, told me to empty the register. I reached for the phone, and he slashed me, cut my arm bad." He rolled up his sleeve, showing a jagged scar. Torres nodded. "And do you see that man here?" Jamal pointed at Nate. "That's him." Clara's cross-examination was surgical. "Mr. Carter, it was raining, dark, and you'd been on your feet for 10 hours. How well lit was the store?" Jamal shifted. "Not great. The lights flicker. And the security footage? Blurry. Camera's old." "So you're relying on memory in a panic. Did you see his face?" Jamal faltered. "Not clear. But the height, the build, it's him." Clara pressed. "Or someone like him. How many customers came in that night?" "Dozens," he admitted. "Any could have matched that description?" He didn't answer. Next was Officer Derek Hayes, a stocky man with a buzz cut and a bruised ego. "I spotted him running from the scene," Hayes said. "Called out, he bolted. Caught him in an alley. Threw an elbow, cracked my rib." Torres held up evidence. A baggie of crumpled bills, a switchblade, and a dented case of beer. "Found these on him," Clara pounced. "Your report says you lost sight of him for over a minute during the chase, correct?" Hayes nodded. "And the knife, no prints, just the clerk's blood. The cash, generic bills. The beer, unopened. Did you see him discard anything?" "No," Hayes grunted. "So he could have been running from something else?" Clara let the question linger. Evelyn's mind raced. She remembered Nate's speed, how he'd outrun the cops once when they were teens, after a prank gone wrong, dragging her behind a dumpster, laughing. "I don't stick around for trouble I didn't start," he'd said. Was that it now? Or had the years turned him into something else? The prosecution doubled down with a third witness, Maria Delgado, the 7-Eleven manager, a stern woman with tired eyes. I wasn't there, but I reviewed the tape, she said. It's grainy, but the guy's build matches him. Tall, broad, dark jacket. Torres smirked. And his behavior after? Cops said he ran. Guilty people run. Clara countered. Ms. Delgado, the tape's timestamp was off by an hour. Your tech confirmed it. Could someone else have been in the store earlier? Maria hesitated. Maybe, but... And the jacket? Common, sold everywhere. No unique marks? No, she admitted. The defense's case brought the first twist. Clara called Lila Monroe, a wiry woman with purple hair and a gravelly voice. I live across the street, she said. Saw two guys that night, one in a hoodie with a knife, swinging at the clerk, and another pulling him off. The second guy ran when the sirens hit. Looked like he was helping. Torres objected. Unreliable. She's half blind at night, but Evelyn overruled. She's an eyewitness. Continue. Lila pointed at Nate. That's the helper. Didn't see no knife in his hand. The gallery erupted in whispers, and Evelyn's pulse spiked. Helping? Not hurting? It echoed the Nate she'd known, the one who jumped into a fight to shield her from a bully, taking a black eye so she wouldn't. But Torres wasn't finished. He called Tara Wells, Nate's ex-girlfriend, a gaunt woman with hollow cheeks and a bitter edge. He's violent, she said. Shoved me into a wall once. Broke my phone. Been a mess since he got out of jail. Paranoid, angry. Clara fired back. Ms. Wells, you've got a restraining order against him, and a history of lying to cops for revenge. This personal? Tara glared. He's no saint. But is he a robber? Tara didn't answer. The tension skyrocketed when Clara called a second witness, Tommy Vance, a scruffy dock worker who'd known Nate for years. I was with him that night, Tommy said, scratching his beard. We just finished a shift, 10 hours unloading crates. Stopped for a smoke near the store. Heard yelling, saw some guy in a hoodie go nuts inside. Nate ran over to stop it. I told him not to, but he's stubborn. Next thing, cops are everywhere and he's bolting. Torres sneered. Convenient story. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Tommy shrugged. Didn't think they'd pin it on him. Thought it was obvious he was helping. Evelyn's head spun. She saw the jury lean in, doubt creeping into their faces. But the prosecution had one last card, a grainy still from a nearby ATM camera, showing a figure in a dark jacket fleeing the scene. That's Rollins, Torres insisted. Clara countered. No timestamp match, no face, just a shadow. Could be anyone. The climax came when Nate took the stand. He moved slowly, the shackles clanking like a death knell, and sat with a weary pride. Clara's voice softened. Tell us your side, Nate. He exhaled, his eyes flicking to Evelyn for a split second. I was walking home with Tommy after work, heard a commotion, saw this guy in a hoodie slashing at the clerk. I ran in, grabbed his arm, tried to pull him off. He swung at me, then took off. I heard sirens and panicked. Ran too. Dumb move, but I've been burned before. Cops don't ask questions when you've got a record. His voice cracked. I've been clean 2 years. Got a job, a shitty apartment, a life I'm trying to keep. I'm not perfect, but I'm not a thief or a thug. Clara pressed. Why run? Nate's jaw tightened. Because I know how this works. They see the tattoos, the scars, the rap sheet, and I'm done. Torres pounced on cross-examination. You expect us to buy this hero act? You've got a history of violence, assault in '98, bar fight in '05. This is who you are. Nate met his gaze. That's who I was. I've paid for it. Doesn't mean I did this. Evelyn's chest ached. She saw the boy who'd carried her books, who'd taken a beating to protect her from her dad's rage. But she also saw the man, scarred, hardened, fighting a world that wouldn't let him go. The closing arguments were a war. Torres went first, his voice a thunderclap. This is a man who lives by the blade. He was there, armed, violent, fleeing with loot. His past isn't a sob story, it's proof. Let him walk, and you're rolling the dice on justice, Clara countered with quiet fury. Justice isn't a guess, it's a standard. The prosecution's got a blurry tape, shaky witnesses, and a knife with no prints. Nate Rollins isn't on trial for his youth. He's on trial for that night. The evidence doesn't hold. Free him because he's earned that chance. The jury deliberated for 10 agonizing hours. Evelyn retreated to her chambers, the rain pounding the windows like a drumbeat. Her clerk, Ben, brought coffee she didn't touch. "You're quiet today," he said. She nodded, staring at an old photo. Her and Nate at a Tacoma fairground, arms slung around each other, cotton candy smeared on their grins. "He saved me once," she murmured. Ben paused. "Think he's worth it now?" She didn't answer, lost in memories. Nate patching her up after a fall, teaching her to hotwire a bike, promising they'd conquer the world together. When the verdict came, the room crackled with electricity. The foreperson, a woman with silver hair and a stern gaze, stood. "We find the defendant not guilty on all counts." The gallery exploded. Gasps, cheers, curses. Evelyn struck her gavel, her hand steady but her heart racing. "Court is adjourned." Nate slumped, a shudder running through him. Not triumph, but survival. As the crowd thinned, Nate lingered, signing release forms. Evelyn stayed at the bench watching. He looked up, and their eyes locked. No walls now, just raw history. He approached, his voice low. "Evie, didn't expect you up there." She managed a faint smile. "Didn't expect you down here." He shifted. "Why didn't you bail on this? You could have." "Because I owed you a fair shot," she said, her voice breaking, "and I wasn't sure anyone else would give it." He nodded, the silence thick. "I screwed up a lot after you left. Thought I could outrun the mess." "I should have stayed in touch," she said, tears threatening. "After the crash, after everything." He cut her off. "You made it, Evie. That's what I wanted. Don't carry my weight." A beat. "You still see me in there?" She met his gaze. "I see the man who didn't quit." He gave a small, sad smile. "Thanks for that." He turned to go, then paused. "Take care, Judge." "You too, Nate," she whispered as he walked out, free but still tethered to his scars. In her chambers, Evelyn sat alone, the city lights smearing through the rain. She pulled out that fairground photo, tracing Nate's grin, then set it aside. The trial was over, but its echoes lingered. A call to question a system that branded people before they could speak, to fight for the Nates still trapped in its jaws. She'd given him mercy once. Now she'd dedicate her bench to chasing it for others, case by case, soul by soul. This isn't just a courtroom epic. It's a raw, unflinching look at loyalty, loss, and the fragile hope of second chances. Judge Evelyn Harper's journey dares us to ask, can justice mend what it's torn apart? If this shook you, like it, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because in a world quick to condemn, stories like this remind us, mercy isn't weakness and truth is worth the battle. Thank you.